Thank you for joining us today for the third week of our Wednesday Wellness webinar series, brought to you by the National Wellness Action Alliance. Before we get started, just want to go through a few housekeeping items. If you have any technical questions for me during this presentation today, please utilize the chat box. If you have any Q&A questions for Carrie, please use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. Closed captioning is also available by clicking the CC button on the menu bar. And these webinars are going to be recorded and posted to our website as well. And with that, I'd like to quickly introduce our speaker, Carrie Ham. She is the director of the nursing program and instructor at Lakeland University. And today she will be presenting to us examining and addressing compassion satisfaction and compassion fatigue for educators. And with that, I will turn it over to you, Carrie.
Thank you, Kira. It was nice to have everybody joining today, and thank you for that introduction. So as we move along through the slides, I will stop my video, but I wanted to say hello to everybody, and thank you for joining me today. So we are going to talk about examining and addressing compassion satisfaction and compassion fatigue for educators. So first, when we think about compassion satisfaction and compassion fatigue, we really want to think about why that's important for us. And one of the first aspects to think about it with the why is knowing about trauma and why that's important. So we've all heard as educators about the Great Resignation and how that's impacting organizations nationwide. And we also know that institutes of higher education are not immune to the employment trends and reductions that are being seen in organizations. And educators like yourself have faced countless challenges during the pandemic. You've grappled with social inequities and national unrest, experienced or witnessed workplace disruptions. You may have confronted the devastation of natural disasters and the effects of these and other events in your communities. The effects felt by your colleagues and the students that you educate. The consequential impact of disruptions like these affect an individual's physical and psychosocial health, their social emotional well-being, interpersonal behaviors and relationships, and cognitive functioning. And the chronic and ongoing exposure to traumatic experiences like these leaves individuals and workplaces to vulnerabilities related to the undesirable effects of trauma. We may experience adverse mental and physical health and tense interpersonal relationships. And as faculty members and other members of education systems, we're in a position where we oftentimes act as a cushion or a sponge for students who have faced all these same challenges. We've seen unanticipated events like campus closures, campus violence, and this leaves us with a sense of anxiety. The challenges are safety and taxes our emotion. So with that, we should talk about building our compassion satisfaction, resisting compassion fatigue, and fostering resilience. So compassion satisfaction, that's the pleasure or satisfaction that's derived from working in a helping and caring system. So in education, as we help those we serve, we derive that pleasure, that reward, and those benefits from the help that we give to others. But that also puts us at risk when we are working in the helping field. So compassion satisfaction is the positive consequences of those helping behaviors that we all hold so true to who we are. It's the pleasure that we derive from creating positive feelings, having those positive feelings for colleagues, the good feelings that we have that result from our ability to assist students and others, and making a positive contribution. Compassion satisfaction occurs when we find meaning and fulfillment in our work. It is the direct opposite of compassion fatigue. But compassion satisfaction protects us from burnout and secondary traumatic stress that we are vulnerable to. So it's really important for us to build our compassion satisfaction, because that is the real way that we can eliminate compassion fatigue and burnout and secondary traumatic stress. Indicators of compassion satisfaction are that sense of pleasure, fulfillment. It's associated with altruism, reward, achievement, happiness, enrichment, inspiration, energy, gratitude, and hope. We're facing the end of the academic year, so we can build our compassion satisfaction by watching students walk across that stage during commencement or graduation ceremonies. And you may reflect back and think back to that student when they were a first-year student on campus, and now you're seeing them graduate. That achievement fulfills your compassion satisfaction and builds that up internally. You may see students excelling at their spring sports, experiences where you have a student who was maybe in your class last fall and is now this spring tutoring other students that are in your course right now. Seeing alumni and all of their accomplishments is another way to build compassion satisfaction. And remember that positive compassion satisfaction overrides compassion fatigue. So instead of focusing on trying to avoid compassion fatigue, build your compassion satisfaction. Focus your efforts on building that and creating those support systems to build your compassion satisfaction. So think about some strategies that you use in your place of employment to help build support networks. And think about those methods and how you can continue to build those networks and commit to supporting your well-being. Organizations can commit as well. So if you are a department chair or a dean, or you hold a leadership role, making sure that peer support networks are available on campus, where student issues can be discussed by faculty, where faculty can have access to and participate in employee assistance programs. There is always an opportunity to collaborate, so make sure that those opportunities exist and folks are participating. We do not want to be isolated, and since the pandemic and the isolation we experienced, that has become more pronounced. So fostering a positive affect with creative and innovative work groups is another way to build your compassion satisfaction. So within your divisions and your schools and across groups across campus, make sure to find creative outlets and innovative work groups so that you can employ good stress management techniques. Make sure that you practice consistent self-care. Partake in daily affirmations or devotional readings. Make sure to express your feelings with others, laugh, and have fun. Make sure to separate work time from family time. Leave your computer in the office or at the workstation, and don't take it home, and try to avoid taking it on vacation. And make sure to use the summer as a time to rejuvenate and reflect and move forward. And also don't forget good nutrition. Your brain needs oxygen and nourishment to function, so make sure to take care of yourselves, take your lunch breaks, step away from the computers for a little bit, nourish yourself, nourish your brains, and continue to build your compassion satisfaction. Moving on to compassion fatigue. This occurs from the negative aspects of working as a helper, as working as a person in the classroom and serving students, serving our communities. It's the not so good stuff that we encounter. Most educators enter the field or discipline of education with the intent to help students, to provide an empathetic teaching and learning experience for the students that are served. Educators play a critical role in developing the mental, emotional, cognitive, and spiritual needs of the students. So modeling these traits in yourself so that students can take on those same characteristics and apply that to their future profession is really important. So if you can practice those skills of developing your mental, emotional, cognitive, and spiritual needs and meeting those needs, you'll model those good behaviors for your students. You'll be building your compassion satisfaction and reducing your compassion fatigue. Now, students and colleagues can be impacted by the continuing stress of meeting the often overwhelming jobs and roles and responsibilities that they have in their workplace. And that can result in compassion fatigue. It affects job satisfaction. It takes a toll on emotional and physical health. It can decrease the quality of work, and it can tax collegial relationships. Compassion fatigue results in a decreased ability to cope with the everyday environment. It's been defined as a state of emotional distress, exhaustion, psychological, social, and biological dysfunction. It's a result of both burnout and secondary traumatic stress. Burnout, feelings of burnout include a sense of inadequacy, helplessness, ineffectiveness. The person may feel overwhelmed. They may have an intolerance just to give any more effort. It's an unwillingness to expend that extra effort to complete a task. It's reduced engagement and commitment. If you are seeing these behaviors in your students, in your colleagues, or in yourself, this is a chance for you to recognize now is time for me to build my compassion satisfaction. It's like if you feel the symptoms, you know it's time to take a break, rejuvenate, and focus on your self-care. Secondary traumatic stress, which is another component that can lead to compassion fatigue, is exposure to events because of relationships that you have with others who have experienced traumatic events. And through your interactions and relationships with those individuals, maybe colleagues or students, you start to experience those stressful events yourself, and you acknowledge them and you take hold of them. So between burnout and secondary traumatic stress, that's what leads to compassion fatigue. How do you know if you're experiencing compassion fatigue? You may have physical symptoms, headaches, gastrointestinal or stomach upset. You may have sleep disturbances. You may have an overwhelming sense of fatigue or being tired. Emotionally and cognitively, you may recognize some mood swings, anger, irritability. You may be oversensitive or anxious. You may start having a sense of becoming more introverted or recognizing that there's more interpersonal conflicts in your life. You may have some work-related experiences that indicate you might be experiencing compassion fatigue, like an avoidance or dread of work, reduced ability to feel empathy towards others. You may feel a sense of incompetence. You may have a loss of purpose or a lack of self-satisfaction. It's really important when you are feeling any of these symptoms to seek out help, build your compassion satisfaction. Maybe it's time to talk and seek some mental health support. Sometimes we have an underlying stigma that contributes to our hesitancy to rely on others and use our support networks and our support systems. But make sure you're taking advantage of that. Oftentimes we have a culture of survival of the fittest, and we feel that we should be able to preserve our own health and well-being and integrity. But we need to let each other know and let our students know it's okay not to be okay. It really takes courage to ask for and seek assistance when you're struggling. Another valid and reliable way to measure your compassion satisfaction and compassion fatigue is to use the Professional Quality of Life Scale, or ProQual. This is a 30-item self-assessment measure that measures the positive and negative impacts of your role as a caring educator. It measures your compassion satisfaction and fatigue. It's really a self-identified screening tool that you can use to track your personal compassion satisfaction and compassion fatigue. And if you're noticing this with your coworkers, you could all take the survey. It's free. I'll share the link in the chat, and you can do this and recognize when maybe someone needs a little extra support or when you need extra support. And from an organizational standpoint, it can help to create plans for resilience. I think in springtime, educators at the end of the academic year really start to have more sense of a burnout, more sense of secondary traumatic stress and compassion fatigue. And so sometimes you might want to take the Professional Quality of Life Scale in the fall and then reassess in the spring to see how things are going and do that self-assessment and check-in. I encourage you to build resilience. Building resilience will help to foster your compassion satisfaction. And you can do this through physical wellness, like eating well, sleeping well, moving your body. Emotional wellness, take a break from social media, the news, newspaper, limit your TV watching. Instead, focus on your social wellness, connect with other people. Have virtual dinners with colleagues or friends. Write a letter to someone. Make sure to focus on your spiritual wellness, your religious practices. Learn about being forgiving, being grateful, and being compassionate. Maybe for you, it's reading or writing or journaling. Play games with family members. Work on puzzles or listening to music. You can build your vicarious resilience. Vicarious resilience is a process where educators, service providers experience positive personal development from witnessing students or colleagues' resilience and growth through adversity. So when you are close to colleagues and students who are overcoming adversity and you see them achieve and reach their dreams, that builds your resilience, and that's called vicarious resilience. And you can experience healing and a shift in the way you view your own struggles. Stay positive about the future. Help others to relieve stress and boost their own self-efficacy. Maintain your moral compass. Follow your beliefs about right and wrong. Make sure you bring humor into the workplace and have that ability to laugh with your colleagues, with other educators, and with students. Make sure to build your social support networks. Having a strong social support network equips us to bounce back because we have the support of others. Face any fears, leave your comfort zone, confront those fears and overcome challenges. And then make sure you have creative outlets, because those creative outlets can release endorphins that help prevent burnout. And then those endorphins enhance your mood and build your energy, constructs a stronger immune system, and lowers your stress. Practice gratitude. How many of you have recently thanked someone, anyone at work, for something that they did? Maybe wrote them a note of thanks and gratitude, or sent an email. Make sure that you do that regularly, because that's going to build your compassion satisfaction. You'll be able to lead a happier, more satisfying life when you can pause and take a moment and think about what you're grateful for. So when we leave today and our time together, take a moment and think about something you're grateful for, and do that every day. That's going to increase your resilience, your ability to handle stress, will help you get along better with others and foster relationships where you have less conflict with others. You can achieve more and have improved health. It builds our humility by recognizing the contributions of others and those contributions, how they've impacted us. That allows us to be better today and better tomorrow. And then it encourages us to reciprocate. The good that others have given us will in turn give that same good feeling to others. So practice workplace gratitude. Where we live, work, play, and pray matters. Gratitude in the workplace will lessen silos, competitiveness, incivility, and distractions. When someone at work thanks you, whether that's a student or a colleague, that helps build trust. That builds your loyalty and your sense of community and commitment. So make sure that you express gratitude, foster a caring culture within your organization, and show that compassion and kindness. I mentioned earlier that support network. So building those relationships and having that sense of belonging is critical to inclusivity. People need to know that they fit in and that they can seek the support of others when in need. So it's sharing stories about one another. It's those good feelings about what happened over the weekend. It's filling each other's bucket. After somebody's dysregulated, maybe their downstairs brain responded in a way you didn't anticipate. We all mess up. We're not perfect. We can apologize and recover after any dysregulation. Normalize self-care. Make sure you take your breaks. Make sure you take care of others. Some things that you can do in the classroom: pay attention to the body language. Pay attention to your language. Use kind words, model positivity. Be strengths-based in providing developmental feedback. Focus on those strengths. Avoid power struggles. You can do a temperature check of the classroom, or maybe before a faculty meeting. How are folks feeling today? Use a stoplight with green, yellow, and red. Kind of gauge where folks are at. And if they're in the green zone, good, move forward. If they're in the yellow, maybe it's time to slow down. And if folks are in the red zone, maybe it's time to take a break. Practice de-escalation prevention. Watch your own responses to situations. Create a sense of calmness. And you can do this by maintaining your self-care. Establish academic safety. Some key strategies. Anxiety. If you see anxiety in a student during an academic interaction, maybe their downstairs brain is reacting, and their prefrontal cortex, the problem solving and decision making, isn't working quite well, and they're coming from an emotional reaction standpoint. Make sure to recognize that and recognize, now we're in the red section. I'm going to take a step back. Still hold high expectations of your students. Let them know they're capable, that it's okay not to know everything. They're novices and they're learning. Instead of asking open-ended questions, you may find it better to give students choices, because ambiguity from open-ended questions makes students nervous and they might not engage. So offering choices between assignments. Some students may prefer to have a choice. Instead of writing a paper, maybe they prefer to do an oral presentation. So offer choices, and make sure that the feedback you're giving is encouragement versus praise. Praise doesn't encourage their self-worth. It provides external validation. So focus on encouraging words like, "You didn't let that stop you. You figured that out, even though it was difficult." So asking for help from students' perspective might be a challenge. So instead of waiting for students to come to you to ask for help, reach out to them. And so with that, we have a few minutes for questions. So I'll turn my video back on for this segment. And Kira, do we have any questions from the group?
We don't have any questions. We just have a comment just saying thank you for offering this essential knowledge for us today. Does anyone want to throw in a last minute question, with whether Q&A or in the chat? Okay, I'm not seeing anything. So thank you so much, Carrie, for sharing this with us today. Everyone, we will be back next week, same time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie.